Hey, Joe. And Joe's got his poppy on, and the mayor's got her poppy on.
Wonderful, thank you.
Have you got yours on, Kathy?
I've got one on every jacket that I've been wearing.
Very good. Well, I think
and I'm delivering poppies again today.
That's right. Okay, I think we're ready to go this morning. Welcome to our Municipal Council meeting for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two items to declare an interest on, actually, and one just to an advisement. The first one, E1, is not a declaration, but simply an advisement. One of my real estate clients a few years ago was interested, and I have toured the property with them, but that client has purchased another property, so there is no further interest there, but I did want to advise council for that for full disclosure. The two items that I do need to declare on, item K1, which is assumption of Yorkwood Homes Subdivision 19T dash 08002, simply because that subdivision abuts my own property. And for the purposes of consistency, I am declaring an interest on that one. Because I've declared in the past on that. And the other item I have to declare on is item L1, the farmers market, and that is simply because my children have a small business and they were vendors at the market for 1 week this season as a testing the water sort of thing. So I'm going to declare an interest in this one matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others? Seeing none, we have a number of community announcements. I know we haven't been asking council for announcements as we've been virtual, but if there are any, I'll ask at the end. Perhaps I'll cover it on some of the items that I have here. To start off with, November character attribute is fairness. I will treat others in a just, equitable, and unbiased manner when I work with fairness. I will listen to all ideas and suggestions, not judge others, and resolve conflicts in the best interest of everyone involved. I have an announcement that actually probably most of you heard from Caroline Mulrooney under the Capital Priorities Project. $14.8 million has been approved for a new 638 pupil place replacement school for Sharon Public School. It will include a childcare facility to address accommodation pressures, and it is expected this project will be completed not later than 2024 to 2025 of the school year. And I know that Councillor Roy DiClemente and Councillor Persicini are very excited about having that in their own backyard, so to speak. So it'll be wonderful for our Sharon community. Another item is I attended the East Gwillimbury Chamber of Commerce business event, which was held at the drive-in. Very interesting place to host an event. This was a great event. Congratulations to the Chamber for organizing it. I continue to be impressed by these innovative ways to deliver great events and programs, and it certainly was that. Congratulations to all the nominees and to those who received awards. We have great businesses in our community here in East Gwillimbury. On behalf of council, I'd like to extend thanks to Lee and Shay Lander for sponsoring the Halloween Craft Week. It was great to see the completed crafts and the way that our community got engaged. Another innovative idea from our staff, and thank you very much. Next, I would like to share that the town has pre-recorded an annual Remembrance Day service, which will be made available through the town's website for viewing on November 11th. I also share that 2020 marks 175 years since the, 75 years since the end of World War II. Thank you to everyone who participated in making this, this video. And lastly, yesterday I participated in a special meeting of York Region Council, which we approved a recommendation for the province to consider permitting restaurants and gyms to reopen. This is to be considered in keeping with the approaching end of the modified stage 2 phase we are currently in, and the recommendation requested this has been done consistently with reopening of the GTA. I believe it's on the screen here now. It's quite a long motion. And it's expected the province will be making an announcement about this and others throughout the GTA this afternoon. So I just wanted to let people know what was covered yesterday. We started at 8:30, and it was at least a couple of hours by the time we found the wording that was satisfactory for everyone to be able to support. I'm wondering if, because we have it up here today, if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive this and it could go into our record as well. Councillor Foster, Councillor Persicini, are there any questions? All those in favor? Thank you very much, and that's all I have for announcements. Are there any community announcements from members of council? Councillor Crothers, go ahead.
Thank you. Just one announcement. The Holland Landing Community Group is going to be hosting their Festival of Lights competition again this year. So we're looking forward to lighting up the landing again this year, and the community group will be out judging houses in December, and we'll have more details on that at our next meeting. Thanks.
I had the pleasure of going out afterwards, and it was wonderful. So very nicely done, and I know that the people that had taken the time to decorate their houses were very excited about it. Thank you. Councillor Persicini.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention that Tara was there, and I saw Scott and yourself on the Chamber of Commerce presentation. It was I've never been to the drive-in since I guess 40 years ago, and I managed to eat those nice popcorn, and it was a good time. It was well done. It was well done, and the only thing I didn't like is those big holes when you're driving out. But otherwise, it was a super night. The movie was great, and it was great. So I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments, questions, information to share at this time? Okay, not seeing any. I will move down to our COVID update. Ask for staff to give us an update, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome to yourself and members of council and those from the public that can join us today. This is our update number 12. It's usually our first item of business, so it reflects that we've had 12 public council sessions since COVID started many months ago. And today we await a couple of key elements. I understand that the emergency meeting called by Chair Emerson yesterday with Regional Council. There was input provided by Regional Council, and it appears that the province will be making an announcement later today with regards to those regions that have been into the modified phase 2. And as the first group that was in the modified phase 2 being Toronto, Ottawa, and Peel, it's coming to the end of the 28 days in the very near future. And I think the province is looking at trying to provide some what they call clear direction to those regions that are affected by this partial closure. Today we have an update from the administration team, the COVID-19 control team. And what I would like to do is have 3 members of that team speak to various components of the update. Mackenzie will speak to certain elements of it, and as well we'll have General Manager Karmazin speak regarding our facility closures. And as well, our Director of Communications, Laura Hanna, is going to provide some updates about some of the community impacts that we are currently assisting to manage. So on that note, I'll pass it over to Chief Mackenzie.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Mayor and Council. Good morning. What I'm going to do as part of the update number 12 is I'm just going to speak to two items. The first one is with regards to the data and statistics, and Tara's going to put up the York Region Interactive website for us, because the question came up at one of the council meetings with regards to grouping and clustering and showing where the cases were occurring in municipalities. So if we get that put up there, we can have a look. But the interactive website is actually provides quite a bit of interest, or quite a bit of information. And the one you can actually drill down, you can scan the whole of the York region, or you can drill down by each municipality. I guess we're having some trouble getting that interactive website up there. So anyway, what I was going to speak to, sorry?
It's coming, just if you can, just a moment.
Okay, perfect. The clusters show where people living in the area that have positive cases of COVID. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were exposed there. And each hexagon on that map represents a 5 square kilometer area. Okay, while we're waiting for that, maybe I'll just move on to the second portion that I was going to speak to, which deals with employee outreach. It's the last paragraph in the memo. But what we want to do is ensure that, looks like success. So what we have here is, I'm sure you've all seen this, is the York Region Interactive website. And if you drill down to, you can see on the left there, COVID-19 in York Region. And as it loads up, it gives a scan of, like I said, of the whole region. When you go below those key navigation buttons, you can see that you can scroll down from York Region into any of the municipalities that you like. So if we click onto East Gwillimbury, it'll give the stats particular to us. And then to find the map that I was speaking about, yeah, you can see the information about, you can see there the key point there is the maps. And then if we move into the hexagons, it'll show the whole region, but you can narrow your search down into East Gwillimbury itself. It takes a little while to readjust. So like I said earlier, these are cases where people live, not necessarily where they were exposed. And it also excludes any cases that are occurring in the long term or the community care facilities. Okay, thank you, Tara. And as I was saying before, the second portion that I'm going to speak to is the employee outreach. And as we continue to move through this pandemic, want to ensure that the health and well-being of our staff is and maintains to be a priority. We're continuing ongoing communication with all staff to ensure that needs are being met, and any resources or support through our EAP provider as access for staff. So just want to make sure that is covered and looked after. With that, those are my two updates. If there's no questions, I'll pass it on to Aaron Karmazin.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. A few brief updates from Community Parks, Rec and Culture. I'm pleased to announce that in lieu of in-person Santa Claus parades this year, we've arranged for Santa and Mrs. Claus to visit the East Gwillimbury communities by way of a tour escorted by YRP, EG Fire Services, town staff, and the Mount Albert Lions. Details regarding the tour, including mapping of the tour route, will be advertised and provided through communications, and further information will also be provided later on today at this meeting. For anyone that misses Santa on the tour, Santa will be available at one of our community centers for a pre-registered drive-by to visit Santa. Also today, we've provided with the memo prepared for council our facility closure schedule and some seasonal festive lighting displays within each of the communities. And I'll just add as a last point that we continue to offer safe programs and services in this current phase of restrictions. And with any adjustments, we'll continue to be flexible and adjust for safe operations as needed. And lastly, there have been some inquiries with regards to outdoor ice and outdoor skating. And our staff team is meeting to review the potential for outdoor ice this year, and we'll be providing a further update into November. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Hackson, members of council. As Mayor Hackson mentioned in her community announcements, we have pre-recorded a Remembrance Day ceremony with Mayor, all of the members of council, and our local MP and MPP. This pre-recorded video is similar to what someone would see if they attended our traditional in-person ceremony. The video is approximately 30 minutes long and will be shared with residents on November 11th on our website, on our Facebook page, and on our YouTube channel. And the video will also be sent to local schools so that they can share it in their classrooms as well. Wreaths ordered through the Mount Albert and District Legion will be laid at the cenotaph on the morning of November 11th. So residents are invited to visit the cenotaph on November 11th to pay their respects. However, we are just reminding them to practice physical and social distancing if they do attend. In addition, we also launched on October 23rd our holiday card contest. This is our second annual contest, which provides local youth. So this year we have categories for ages 5 to 7 and ages 8 to 12 with the opportunity to have their artwork showcased on the town's annual holiday card. The contest is open until this Friday, and then the 2 winners will be selected and their artwork will be featured on the front of the card. Each winner will receive a $100 gift card to the local businesses, and then we will showcase all of the submissions on social media.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the staff overview. If there's any questions or comments from council, we'd welcome them at this point.
Thank you. Questions from members of council. Councillor Foster.
Just a comment, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank staff for the inclusion of the East Gwillimbury information and for Chief McKenzie running through that website. I believe we still have a lot of members of the public that haven't been there yet, and hopefully that information spurs them to have a look so they know what's going on. And the Santa coming to town idea, I think, is a great idea in these interesting times, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Foster, would you move the updates, please? And seconded by Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We are at item E on our agenda, statutory public meeting. And this portion of the council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input on planning applications received by the town prior to a full technical analysis being conducted by our staff. No decisions to approve or refuse an application will be made here today. There will be presentations from both town planning staff and the applicants on the development applications. Following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposals. Submissions can also be made in writing. I will then ask either staff or applicant to answer questions related to the applications. Once we have heard from the members of public, I will ask members of council if they have any questions or comments as well. Your participation today is welcome, and by hearing all comments, we enable the making of informed decision. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded for storing and broadcasting on the internet. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information is being collected and maintained for the purpose of sending correspondence relating to matters before council and creating a record that is available to the public in hard copy format and on the internet in the electronic format pursuant to Section 27 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Questions about the collection of personal information should be directed to the town clerk. I will now ask the General Manager of Development Services to begin with the presentations, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. So this is a zoning amendment, bylaw amendment application. We've been working with the applicant on this proposal for some time. Our planner, Victoria Moore, will provide an overview of the policy context, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant's planner, Dan Stone, who will go into some detail related to the actual proposal itself, the daycare center. At a future report, this is an information report, is dealing with the zoning bylaw amendment requiring a statutory public hearing. There will be a future report that will also deal with the associated site plan application that the staff is currently reviewing. So at this point, Madam Mayor, I'll turn it over to Victoria to start the presentations. And I also see that the owner-operator of the daycare is in attendance and will also be available to answer any questions, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, and any members of the public we have in attendance today. My name is Victoria Moore. I'm one of the planners here at the town, and I will begin this public meeting by giving a brief overview of the subject property, the proposed uses, and the current status of the planning applications. Next slide, please, Tara. So the subject property is located north of Green Lane East on the east side of Leslie Street. The property is 3.28 hectares with about 63 meters of frontage along Leslie Street, which is a regional road. The site currently contains a vacant residential building that was previously used as a group home. Next slide, please. The subject property is within the Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan area, which has been approved by council and is awaiting regional adoption. The property is designated mixed business employment and environmental protection area in the secondary plan and is identified as employment area on Schedule A to the town's official plan. Section 11.3B of the secondary plan permits daycare centers only in mixed business employment area, subject to a zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of the mixed business employment area is to provide services that are important to support the primary employment function of the prestige and general employment areas. The environmental protection area designation is meant to identify the town's natural heritage system. Next slide, please. So the property is currently zoned commercial C1 exception 16 on the western portion of the property and is zoned rural on the eastern portion of the property. The commercial C1 16 zone permits a variety of commercial uses, but does not currently permit a daycare. A daycare center is also currently not permitted in the rural zone, which permits a variety of agricultural uses. Next slide, please. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone the easterly portion of the property from rural to employment prestige M1 with a site-specific exception to permitted daycare use, as well as a reduction in the minimum required parking from 51 to 37 spaces. Next slide, please. In addition to the submitted zoning bylaw amendment, the applicant has also submitted a site plan application, which is currently under review by town staff and external agencies. The site plan proposes the construction of a new 2-story childcare building with a gross floor area of approximately 1,200 square meters. The existing building on the property is not proposed to be removed as part of this application. The childcare center is proposed to have 7 classrooms, a gymnasium, dining hall, fenced outdoor natural playground, and associated parking area. Next slide, please. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment and site plan applications are currently being reviewed by town staff and external agencies. We have identified the following matters to be addressed before a final report is prepared for council's consideration. The applicant has been working closely with the town and the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority to ensure that the proposed childcare center will have no negative impact on the environmental features on the property. We will also be having further discussions to determine the exact location of the zoning boundary, and the proposed new access from Leslie Street is currently being reviewed by regional staff. Other matters that are still under review also include conformity with provincial, regional, and local planning policies, the appropriateness and compatibility of the use, as well as a review for any other potential zoning deficiencies. Next slide, please.
So staff have received a couple calls from neighboring landowners with respect to this application. The questions and comments related to whether the proposed north-south extension of Harry Walker, as shown on the approved 404 secondary plan, would be subject to this application. And staff have advised that it's not part of this application and would be subject to a future subdivision application. We also had a question with respect to the compatibility of uses. And then we've also heard from some residents who are looking forward to seeing a new daycare service in their community. Next slide, please. So staff will continue the technical review of the subject application, including discussions from today's public meeting. A comprehensive report with recommendations for the zoning bylaw amendment and site plan application will be presented at a future council meeting. If anyone has any questions or would like to be notified in the future for information related to these applications, please contact me with the information provided on the final slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of our town planner at this point? Seeing none, we will move along to the comments and presentation from the applicant or their agent.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Mr. Stone. Good to see you here today.
Good to see you as well. The audio is good. You can hear me okay?
I'm not seeing anyone showing me they can't, so
Okay, good.
We're all good.
Well, thank you. And again, good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the public and staff. My name is Dan Stone. I am a registered professional planner with Thorstone Consulting, and I have been working for the registered owner of this property, Mr. Eddie Besnillian, for a number of years, going back to your zoning bylaw review. And I am currently engaged with the Aurora Child Care Center, who is owner-operator is Shelley Ambing. On this current application. Shelley is joining us here today, and I do have a short presentation that I'd like to go through, and I think at the conclusion of my presentation, Shelley just has a couple of brief words as well. So, Tara, if we could start with the presentation, please.
We're having a few technical difficulties, so if you can just bear with us for a moment.
There we go. Thank you. Tara, if you could advance to the first slide, please. This is similar to the slide that you saw in Victoria's presentation. And I won't be repetitive. I'll zoom through these slides. That just shows the subject property and the context of the parcel fabric in the area. Next slide, please. This is a excerpt from your 2010 official plan, which identifies the property within the employment area. As council is aware, your secondary plan for this employment area was approved by council earlier this year, and I think it's scheduled to be approved by the Region of York this week, actually. And the next slide, Tara, is going to show you the specific land use designations within that secondary plan. As Victoria's pointed out, the subject property is located within the area just south of the east-west collector road you see here, within the mixed-use employment designation, with also the green designation identifying an environmental protection area. Next slide, please. This is a figure that I put together based on both the existing zoning in the area, and I was adding in certain elements of the approved secondary plan, including the future road connection to the north and the land use designations that have been approved in the secondary plan, which include the mixed business employment area, the prestige industrial, and some other property ownerships in the area. I'm also identifying the Rice Commercial Group lands to the south, which is subject to your recent minister zoning order. And I'm aware that that particular property is subject to some approvals from council for some site preparation work that has been undertaken for those proposed uses. There was some mention by Victoria in terms of concerns with respect to the Harry Walker alignment, and that what I've shown here on this particular figure is not necessarily fixed, but it does show a potential alignment that might work through that property and the properties to the north to avoid the environmental feature. The green designation on your secondary plan is basically reflected by the feature that is outlined in blue on this slide, and that is the environmental feature that has been studied, and we've been working with the Conservation Authority as Victoria has mentioned on that particular issue. Floodplain is identified on the west side of the property adjacent to Leslie Street. That's the orange hatched area, and that is an area that has been modeled by the Conservation Authority as being within the regional flood line. So we have located the proposed daycare facility there on the yellow outline. The two-story building has been designed in such a way that it will ultimately face and address the future collector road, with parking areas to the east and west side of the building. Next slide, please. So as Victoria's pointed out, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment before you today is seeking a zoning change to an employment zone that would permit the childcare facility as a standalone use. And we've also asked for special provisions in the bylaw to allow for a reduction in the required amount of parking. The parking analysis was done by a qualified transportation consultant, and that was submitted with our site plan application. And as is often the case with the municipal zoning bylaws, the required parking standards don't necessarily reflect what is actually required. Our reduction is based on the actual needs of this particular operation. It reduces the amount of hard surface areas, which helps out with stormwater management and objectives of the Conservation Authority as well. So that's part of the application before you. Next slide, please. So as Victoria pointed out, the childcare facility is proposed to be almost 13,000 square feet. The parking areas on either side. The use will accommodate up to a total of 120 children and provide employment for 21 full and part-time staffs. The building consists of, as Victoria's pointed out, 7 classrooms, including a dining area and a gymnasium. Next slide, please. And that is the site plan. I do want to point out the hatched area that you see on the west side of the property. That is the existing tile field sewage system, the private sewage system, which has been in place for some years and has serviced the institutional use and that has previously been occupying the front property of the building, the brown brick building, which has been a home for special care for many, many years. And the sewage system, which is servicing that building, will be used as an interim solution for the sewage generated by the proposed daycare facility. It is obviously the intention that this property will be serviced by full municipal services if and when they are available. Our proposal is to take advantage of the existing system since it's adequately sized to handle the proposed flows. We have produced and submitted with our site plan application an engineering report which speaks to that specifically. Next slide. And this is the artist rendering of the front elevation. Again, as I pointed out earlier, this is the elevation that would be facing the proposed east-west collector, which is part of the larger secondary plan area for the employment area. And you'll see the attention to architectural design on this building, and the gymnasium is on the west side of the building, or the right hand side of this slide. That would be the gymnasium portion of the building, or of the child care facility. Next slide. So as Victoria's pointed out, and as Marco has referenced, we have filed a detailed site plan application with the zoning bylaw amendment. This slide basically gives you an understanding of the breadth of studies and reports that were produced in support of the site plan application. And as staff has pointed out, these reports and studies are being reviewed by the municipality as well as the consulting agencies that are involved in the development approval process. And we hope to move that one forward as soon as possible. Next slide. Yes, so just in closing, as I mentioned, we do want to move forward as soon as possible with this application. We noted that in my comments earlier, the municipality and council has been generous with allowing the Rice Commercial Group to move ahead with site preparation and earthworks. We're hoping, and we've talked to your staff about this, that we could move the site plan application forward as soon as possible and help Shelley get this project underway as soon as possible. There are some constraints in terms of funding for the project, and I will now turn it over to Shelley. She just has a few remarks to make, and then of course, Madam Mayor, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Stone first, and then we'll welcome Shelley Ambing? I'm not seeing any. Welcome, Shelley. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for having me with you this morning. Just to give you a little background about myself, I've been working in the not-for-profit childcare sector for over 40 years. 33 of those have been in York Region with the corporation I'm presently with, employed with, which is Aurora Children's Center. We have 2 sites. Aurora Children's Center is on Industrial Parkway North in Aurora, and we take care of 227 children at that site. And we have another site on Bloomington in the Cardinal Carter High School. We have 50 children there. I'm extremely excited about bringing a new childcare option into the East Gwillimbury area. When I applied to the province for funding to do this project, we did a lot of research and looked in different communities to see where the largest growth was. And East Gwillimbury obviously has been booming. So this is an exciting time for me. I've had a lot of history with startup funding. In 2006, we moved from a small site of 142 into the Industrial Parkway North Child Care Center that is 17,000 square feet. We have a gymnasium and dining hall as well, and we've been extremely successful. The funding of this project is time sensitive. I did receive provincial funding for the project. I was successful in 2018. So we've been working on this project for a long time. So I thank East Gwillimbury for entertaining this. I'm anxious to move forward as soon as possible, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has for me.
Thank you very much, Shelley. It's a beautiful building. Your rendering is wonderful, and what a nice entrance feature to Sharon. So we'll work away with you and hope that we can make this a reality in East Gwillimbury. Members of council, any questions of Mrs. Ambing? I'm not seeing any at this time, so we'll move along in our agenda. And the next portion is public comments, and I believe we have some speakers. So I will wait and see who we have and introduce them as they come forward.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't believe we had any registered speakers for this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Then we will move along. Are there any questions? I'm seeing council hands up. I'll start with Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Foster, and then Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm excited to see this come forward. I know it's been sort of in the pipeline for some time, as I alluded to in our opening comments, and I'm pleased to see an expansion of those services that our residents have been asking of us. The social media is full of the inquiries from new residents about where, suggestions for childcare, and having an established organization with a track record is certainly something that parents would be open to trusting with their precious little ones, with an organization that has a track record already established in York region. Through you, Madam Mayor, a question for it may be for staff, it may be for Mr. Stone, I'm not sure. The new building looks beautiful. I understand the strategy in starting fresh with a new site. What's the plan for the existing building as it stands now? Is it going to stay in place, or is it being repurposed as well? What's the plan there?
Madam Mayor, I can address the councillor's question.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Roy D. Clemente. The property remains in the ownership of Mr. Besnillian, and he may have some plans to repurpose that building. It does have zoning permissions for limited uses in accordance with your previous zoning bylaw, and as well as the new official plan. So at this time, there's no plans to either demolish it or repurpose it. Not that I've heard, anyways, from Mr. Besnillian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Stone. I guess if the building remains in place and there's future plans for it, then obviously the infrastructure with respect to the septic and servicing would need to be addressed, because I don't imagine that both buildings would be able to use the same septic system. Madam Mayor, just through you to staff as well, when this does come back to us, I'd like to hear a bit more information about sort of the area that we're planning to rezone, given that there's some significant infrastructure with the extension of Harry Walker and the east-west collector, and that intersection there. I think I wouldn't want to be tying anybody's hands with respect to alignments and road allowances and sight lines, and whether or not a turn signal, a traffic circle or things like that go in there. So just through you to staff with that thought. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment to both Mr. Stone and our staff. I'm thinking about the parking reduction, and I'm just wondering about consideration for the winter time and snow load, where you end up losing probably 6 or so of those remaining parking spots. I'm just wondering if that might make it tight. And secondly, when this comes back to us, could we have some attention paid to the front of the building, where I would anticipate you're going to have a lot of pickup and drop off of children, and the number of spaces and how many cars can get in and out with that, given that we've had some issues with the schools and that type of thing in the past. I just thought that some attention could be paid to that. Other than that, great looking facility and much needed in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. It is a beautiful building, and Councillor Foster got one of my questions about the drop-off pickup loop. I think that the building's very close to the collector road, and should a loop need to be put in, it's going to be a little bit tight. I have two questions. First of all, with the announcement of the new school in Sharon, was there an announcement of a child care center with it? Often a child care center goes with the new school. So I'm just wondering about need in East Gwillimbury, if there is a child care center there. And if someone has an answer to that, and then I have one more question after that.
I would have an answer to that, and yes, there is a proposed child care facility there as well.
Excellent. And so do we still have the need with that announcement?
Perhaps Shelley, you could answer that.
Yeah, so usually when a new school is built, the childcare is for the school age component. The childcare center that I'm building is for 18 months to 4 years of age. So we actually complement each other. And any overflow from the school, if the school cannot meet the needs of school age, then I can look at that in the future as well to, because that's one of the reasons I have a gymnasium attached to the childcare center in case there's any community overflow from the schools.
I'm sorry, my question was, when I originally asked about the child care center at the school, I didn't mean before and after. I meant a full child care facility. So schools will often have a full child care facility, not just before and after. So I want, if that is planned for the school, then how does that impact your proposal?
I don't think it will, to be quite honest, because the growth in East Gwillimbury is massive. I honestly don't think, and in the school though, it's shared space and some families like that, some don't. I honestly don't think it'll impact, to be quite honest.
Okay, I appreciate there's probably a lot of need, and with new houses coming online, and we tend to attract young families with new houses. My second and last question is, on the official plan, the area where the building is proposed is designated environmental protection area. And although the area to the east of it is not, and I'm wondering why the building is proposed to be situated on an area that's designated environmental protection rather than moving it further east into an area that's not environmental protection.
Dan, do you want me to speak to that, or are you speaking to that, Dan?
Well, if it's okay, Shelley, I'll speak to it. And thank you for the question, Councillor. Tara, can I ask you to go back to that air photo? I just wanted to explain how the features work. The air photo where I had the additional property ownerships and the road alignment. I don't know if you're able to go back to that particular slide on the presentation, but while Tara's trying to find that, Councillor, the original proposal, as you may recall, was the introduction of the childcare facility in the existing building fronting on Leslie Street, and that was an application which was advanced a couple of years ago. And when the Conservation Authority looked at that, that's when we found out that we had the floodplain issues. So, Tara, can you go to? I'm not sure the number of the slide, but it's. Yeah, there it is there, number 5. Yeah, so what you're looking at in orange is the delineation of the regional storm flood line, and putting a child care facility within the existing building. The existing building is sitting entirely within the flood line, and the provincial policy statements and the cascading policies that flow down from that prevent putting any kind of sensitive use like residential occupancy or childcare within the floodplain. That's when we started to think about moving the proposed building further away from the floodplain onto the site that we've chosen. So when you look at your official plan, and I'm sure Marco can speak to this, the delineation of your environmental protection area, which is the green designation on the schedule to the official plan, as you can expect, it's identified at a very high level when you do your secondary planning process, and the policies in the secondary plan are designed in such a way that the actual limits of the feature and the buffers associated with that feature, they get fixed in the field based on detailed analysis. So we've hired a qualified ecologist as part of this application. We've had pre-consultation meetings with the Conservation Authority. We've produced the reports that are necessary. And the building and the parking areas are actually not within the feature as it's been identified in the field. And those blue lines you're looking at here on this slide are actually the state limits of the feature, and they were staked by the Conservation Authority staff. So in response to your question, I think we've located things outside of the feature and the buffer associated with that feature. We do have one of the playground areas that encroaches slightly into the 30-meter buffer, but we're doing a lot of enhancement through our landscape plan that will improve the feature elsewhere on this property. And when I talk about enhancements, I'm referring to a detailed planting plan that was put together by the landscape architect in consultation with the ecologist, which will identify areas where the developer will be required to enhance with planting plans to improve the feature and its functions. So I hope that answers your questions, that we've been staying away from the feature because we've had to.
But I see one of the blue lines goes right through the middle of the building.
Yeah, I see. I think that's the, what you're looking at is the 30-meter buffer. There is a secondary buffer of 15, which is also dealt with in the policy framework. The policy framework does speak to both types of buffers, and based on this feature, the ecologist has basically concluded, and we'll get the feedback from the Conservation Authority, who has the jurisdiction in this particular area. But this feature, it's if you trace it back to its origins, it's a storm pond associated with the 404 highway, and it travels towards Leslie Street, and there's a valley system associated with it. It's not a very high valued feature from an ecological perspective based on the report that the consultant prepared. And it's for that reason that the Conservation Authority isn't rigidly adhering to the 30-meter buffer, but is more interested in us protecting the 15.
But it is important to our wildlife as a wildlife corridor, and it greatly concerns me when we start eating away at environmentally protected areas, especially when the property owner has plenty of land to the east that could easily accommodate the building and the parking lot without going into our environmentally protected area. And when I see that blue line going straight through the building, I find it very hard to be in favor of this, especially when there is space, lots of space to the east that could easily accommodate. Thank you.
Are there other questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any.
Mayor Hackson?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Crone.
If I may, thank you, thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to staff. Most of my colleagues have taken up some of my questions that I've had here, but the one question I do have remaining is with this proposal, and I know we're being asked to allow some flexibility on the zoning. With respect to placing a childcare facility here, which I think there's a need, and the facility is lovely and looks architecturally impressive. I'm worried about what could be located around the surrounding area. Are you concerned about the changes to the zoning? I'm asking this to staff. Are you worried about the changes to the zoning and the possibility we could have say an incompatible but allowable use next door to it? And I'm just throwing out for argument's sake an industrial area that could spew smoke and fumes into, you don't want that for your kids. So obviously I'm worried about the investment of the applicant here, that you don't get put into a situation where you have something undesirable next door because it's an allowable use. I asked Mr. Ramunno, do you foresee anything with future unintended consequences that could happen that would make both the applicant unhappy and of course the kids?
Mr. Maruno?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Crone. No, I mean, that's obviously something that we look at and trying to address through our review with respect to the appropriateness of the use and compatibility. Just to clarify again, through our secondary plan process, which is at the region, will be considered this week, the land use designation specifically in this area and where the proposed daycare sits on is the mixed business employment designation, which I specifically permits these type of uses, offices, not heavy industrial, and the surrounding land uses as well. On the land use schedule, the immediate land uses are prestige employment. So again, they're not heavy type of industrial uses. So based on our secondary plan, don't have an issue with compatibility moving forward. and just to speak to the earlier points with respect to the feature, at this scale of the mapping, yes, there is a natural heritage, the green EP area immediately to the south of the property, but based on the work that was done by our consultants when they prepared the natural heritage evaluation for our secondary plan, we're pretty confident that the proposed daycare is within the employment designation. As part of the zoning amendment application, the applicant has submitted a site-specific natural heritage evaluation that we'll be looking at, our Conservation Authority will be looking at as well. The Rice group as well, they've submitted their own natural heritage evaluation that will be considered specifically with respect to the alignment of Harry Walker Parkway as that moves forward. So again, as we complete our review, with our future report and our recommendation report, we'll provide that detail with respect to the outcomes of the natural heritage evaluation from Conservation Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Ramunno. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a thought as somebody who has 3 kids who are school age. For me, I'm reminded that the Conservation Authority has jurisdiction here, and if the Conservation Authority signs off on this, and it's a minimized buffer, then that's okay. For me, when I heard that the playground incurs somewhat into that buffer zone, that for me was an asset, because it meant that the kids would be playing in a natural area in woods and trees and so on, and not on a paved playground or parking lot, which is where many of these centers end up having to be put because of the zoning restrictions that we put in place. So for me, I thought that was a good point, and I just wanted to wrap up some of my thoughts for Ms. Ambing, which is to say thank you very much for investing in our community and for choosing us for your center. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? I have a lengthy resolution. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Roy DiClemente. Be it resolved that Development Services Planning Branch presentation and report B 219, dated November 3rd, 2020, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application by Thurstone Consulting Inc. to permit a children's center at 18335 Leslie Street, ZBA 2003 be received, and that the presentation made by Thurstone Consulting Inc. regarding zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a children's center at 18335 Leslie Street, ZBA 2003 be received, and that the comments presented at the statutory public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a children's center at 18335 Leslie Street, ZBA 2003 be received, and that comments presented at the statutory public meeting be addressed by Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to it coming back at a future date. I wonder, staff, if you might have some idea of when we may be seeing this in front of us again.
Certainly, through you, Madam Mayor, we'll do our best to complete our review with the background studies, specifically natural heritage evaluation, to define those limits, and we'll try and bring this forward for final consideration by council in the new year.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shelley. Good to have you with us, and also Mr. Stone. Good to have you with us as well. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We are at item F on our agenda with presentations and none at this time. Item G is deputations, also none at this time. I'm down to corporate services, and I have communication branch presentation and report CS 202013, town logo update number 5. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll just make a couple of very brief introductory comments before I
turn things over to Danielle Verneau and Laura Hanna. But this initiative is approaching the 18-month mark. Believe it or not, we've been at it for a while. And if you recall, this was an exercise that we undertook, I think, very creatively and innovatively within staff and council's sort of abilities to do this with a fair amount, well, actually an extensive amount of public participation, and public participation not just in reviewing what we were suggesting, but actually getting the ideas for what the logo might look like. So we've done it very efficiently at a fraction of the cost of many other initiatives similar to this. And what we're here for today, because we're basically at the finish line, is just we're down to a couple of options. We have a recommended option that we believe is the one that the town should be sort of pursuing. And then after today, we would look forward to coming back on the 17th with some additional information on brand standards and implementation. And then we're quite excited about coming up later this month, recognizing some of the participants that contributed and the winners of the contest that we had to get to this point. So we're at a very, very exciting point, and I will now turn it over to Danielle and Laura for a very brief presentation, Madam Mayor, and then we just look to finalize our approach to come back to you on the 17th.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. My name is Danielle Verneau, and I'm the communications coordinator for the town, and presenting with me today is Laura Hanna, our Director of Communications and Customer Service. Today we will be presenting a finalized logo concept for your review and approval, as well as next steps for rolling out the logo. Next slide, please. In September, we presented the results from our public engagement survey that took place during the month of August. Based on the feedback we received, staff made modifications to the highest rated logo concept. Some of the suggested edits included using the leaf design from logo concepts B and C, changing the font, direction of the leaf, and spacing within the design, to name a few. Next slide, please. Following September's council meeting, we met with one of our contest winners, Holly DeWinter, who is also a local graphic designer, to develop the final logo and files. Modifications were made to the font, letter spacing, swoosh, and leaf, while maintaining the core aspects of the preferred logo concept. Following a review of the final design, staff are recommending that council approve option A with the blue text, as it's consistent with the letters EG and therefore more appealing for design purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. And now Laura is going to take us through next steps for rolling out the logo.
Thank you, Danielle. Following today's discussion, communications staff will be working to develop the brand standards for the new logo. This would include an outline of how not to use the logo, or when to use the coat of arms, or when to use the new logo. It will also include how the logo can be placed on various items. So that would include items such as our vehicles and trucks in the field, apparel, pens, and documents. We will also be showcasing the new logo at the November 17th meeting. Once it's finalized, we'd like to do an official launch, and we would also like to invite all of the logo participants to watch the unveiling of the official logo, to thank them for their participation, as they were a huge part in helping us land on the final logo. Following that meeting, we'll be sharing the logo files with employees and begin to roll out the use of the logo. And we look forward to completing this process and sharing the new logo with our residents. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councillor Carruthers, go ahead.
Thank you. It looks great, and I just want to thank you for showing us that option B, because I was the one that had requested it, and seeing it makes me more confident that the blue is the right choice to go with. I do like the idea of our town being very thought of as green. We're doing a lot with green initiatives and are thinking green and that sort of thing. So I would, I'm fully in favor of option A, but I would just ask that we think about adding green as accents on some of our communication tools as appropriate, just to not get too blue, but to add green wherever we can. So I'm again, thank you for showing me what I was asking for, and I can see with my own eyes that the blue is much better, so thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Persichini.
As you see, Tom Webster's behind there, the letters, how East Gwillimbury looks. I'll just question, why are we not consistent doing the same thing? Like build it into the nice design you got. Look at the Tom Webster, the type of the letters that we stay the same, and using this format of that we have now, which is great. I love the colors, I love everything, but I was just curious to know why don't we stick to the stamp of East Gwillimbury. If you look behind Tom Webster there, good-looking guy there, you can see the writing, type of writing. Just curious why we don't go that direction, since it's like almost like it's a recognized thing that when you see that nice font, the fonts, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Just curious, why don't we stick to that? But if you, I like the design, I like everything. I'll just say, if I was me, if it was my business, I would stick to the East Gwillimbury, like Tom is in the office there, you know, beside the arm, you know, the letter types. That's it. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to respond.
Please.
Okay, thank you, through you. Thank you for that feedback. It was definitely an option that we looked at while we were doing the design process. I think part of the design feedback that we heard from the public and from council was an opportunity to sort of modernize and streamline the design and look of the logo. So ultimately the decision was to do an updated font and not utilize the one that we had previously, because we still will be using the coat of arms. So that's something important to remember as well, that current look won't be something that we lose, that we will be using them in conjunction. And so the new logo would just be the modernized version. It also has an accessible font in it as well. So that's something that we took into consideration when doing the design. And we dropped the wording town of, because we won't necessarily always be a town as we grow. That would no longer be something we would want to include in the logo. So those were a couple of the considerations when updating it, but not to worry about losing what we already had, because we'll be using both and outlining that very clearly in the brand standards.
Thank you very much. I was only talking about the writing, not the town or the arms. Just thought that's my personal take, but if everyone likes this thing, I'll go along with everyone else. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. So we will move to our agenda. We have a resolution for the logos. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DeClemente. Be it resolved that Corporate Services Communication Brands Presentation Report CS 2013 dated November 3rd, 2020 regarding the town logo updates be received, and that council approve the final design of the new town logo as shown in option A, and that staff develop the brand standards for implementation and report back in Q4 2020. Are there any questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, staff. Very exciting. Be very interesting to see how we start to implement this into a variety of our projects and how our community embraces it as well. Thank you very much. I'm now at item I, and this is Development Services, Planning Branch Memo Zoning Change 19659 Leslie Street. Mr. Ramunno, could you address this, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of the memo is really to inform council of the administrative change of zoning bylaw that's on the agenda today for council's enactment, to deal with to rectify an error on this property on Leslie Street related to the Altamar gas station. The applicant submitted a site plan application to add a car wash that'll be the subject of a future report to council. But we realized as part of the 2018 zoning bylaw update, the existing zoning category on the property was changed from C4, from C2 to C4, which eliminated the existing gas station and car wash use on the property. So it's staff opinion that that was an error. So we're making that change now so we can continue to process the site plan to add a car wash on that site. And as I mentioned, that'll be the subject of a future report to council dealing with an amendment to the site plan application.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any at this time. Could I have a motion, Councillor Roy DiClemente and Councillor Persicini? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We're at item J, Emergency and Community Safety Services. I have no reports at this time. Chief, do you have anything to report to council?
Thank you, Your Honor. No items on the agenda, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions of the chief? Councillor Morton, any questions from the chief?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That we will move along to item K, and that's Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services. And we do have one resolution in relation to S1. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services, we have a number of reports today, three assumption reviews, first of which is the York Homes Phase 1 assumption. It's a 166 lot development off Morel Boulevard in Sharon Village. All works have been completed to the satisfaction of the town. Just want to point out a couple of items with respect to the infrastructure on Deepwood Crescent. We're looking to defer that to phase 2. And also would like to point out to council that Morel was, the paving on Morel was deferred to the summer of 2020 as part of a larger project at our request. And we're looking to hold securities for the full 13-month maintenance period on Morel. And that's essentially Yorkwood Homes in a nutshell. And we're looking to proceed with the assumption of that development at this time.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Foster, all those in favor, and that's carried. The next report is Joint Community Infrastructure, Environmental Services, and Community Parks, Recreation, and Culture, assuming of Ashley Park Phase 1 and Phase 2 Sharon Village Development Subdivision. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This Ashley Park is a 121 lot development off Morel Boulevard in Sharon Village. All works with the exception of some minor tree replacements and some aquatic plantings in the storm pond have been completed to the town's satisfaction. We're holding securities for the works. And there's also a number of undeveloped lots that are awaiting service allocation, and we're going to be holding some security for those lots as well, just to ensure that they are properly maintained. All the right-of-way, or all the servicing within the right-of-way is in place for those for those empty lots, and it's ready to go when that servicing allocation is available. So again, staff are recommending proceeding with the assumption of this development at this time.
Thank you very much. Questions for members of council? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Morton, Councillor Crothers, be it resolved that Joint Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services and Community Parks, Recreation and Culture Report, CIES 2020-16, dated November 3rd, 2020, regarding assumptions of Ashley Park Phase 1 and Phase 2 Sharon Village Development Subdivision 19T11001 be received, and that council enact a bylaw to assume public works and services within plans of subdivision 65M-4502 and 65M4451. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. The next item is Joint Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services and Community Parks and Recreation Assumptions, Queensville Properties Phase 1 Development Subdivision. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Queensville Phase 1 is a 398 lot development on the west side of Leslie in Queensville. All works with the exception of some tree replacement and some minor curbing deficiencies have been completed to the town's satisfaction. We're holding securities for the tree replacements as well as we obtained a cash payment for the full value of the impacted curb. And with these modifications, staff recommend proceeding with the assumption.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was struck by the comment in the report that not only are there 46 trees that have died and need to be replaced because presumably they weren't maintained, but that there were 111 trees that were pushed to phase 2. That wouldn't necessarily be unusual, except that this is the same developer who didn't deliver their park on time either. So they've delayed planting trees, they've delayed producing the park according to their contractual agreement with us. I'm just wondering why this developer seems to be a bit of an exception in delivering on its obligations to us and having to find workarounds. I'm not suggesting that we hold up assumption for the sake of $50,000 worth of trees, but it just seemed to me that it's stuck out like a bit of a sore thumb for me. And I'm wondering if there's something unusual that we're missing with this circumstance. It just seems to be that they're falling flat with us each time. I'd welcome the staff's thoughts on that.
Go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. As I believe most of those issues are related to the parks area, I'll ask General Manager Karmazin to respond to that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, CPRC has made the developer aware of their obligations to build a complete community. And all I can say is that we continue to work with this particular developer to ensure they fulfill those obligations.
Thank you. I just, Madam Mayor, again, I'm struck by the fact that they have a subdivision agreement that says they're going to do, that they must do certain things, and we've had to negotiate and bend over backwards to make this happen for them. So I'm fine to move forward with the assumption on this, but I guess if there's a way of conveying these sorts of questions and concerns to the developer, I know I've shared them with my representatives at that organization. But again, this is the second time where we've had to make allowances for not delivering on the agreement, and it concerns me. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Webster, perhaps you could use your channels to share our frustration in this particular section.
I will undertake to follow up, Madam Mayor, on behalf of council. I understand the concerns, and it should be noted this is by far the largest landowner in East Gwillimbury, and we'll be dealing with this particular company for many, many years to come ahead of us. So we will certainly take action on the noted comments.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Persichini, all those in favor? And that's carried. Item number 4, Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services Report CIES 2020-27 Sole Source Award T2023 Mosquito Control Program. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The town's 3-year contract with our service provider, Pestalto, to deliver the mosquito control program is now complete. Given COVID-19, the importance of continuity of the current service level and the short window and complexities of the program, staff negotiated a 1-year plus 1 optional year contract with Pestalto to continue to deliver this program for the town. So we're looking to council to recommend proceeding with the Pestalto on a sole source contract at a cost of $165,000.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Not seeing any. Councillor Crone, could I have you move this? And seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Item L, Community Parks, Recreation and Culture. Go ahead, Mr. Karmazin, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. This year was the first year of our farmers market at our new home, the Civic Center precinct. This year also marks one of our most successful years for both vendor and patron attendance, even with COVID-19 and restrictions and precautions. Year-end update memo and presentation has been prepared for council. I would like to thank Audrey King, our market programmer, our Farmers Market Committee, Rhonda Pogue, our Manager, Recreation Events and Community Engagement, Danielle Servino, our Special Events Coordinator, and of course yourself, Madam Mayor, as our Chair of the Farmers Market Committee. Today, providing a brief presentation will be Audrey, Rhonda,
Hello.
and
Yes.
I'm not sure, we just had somebody speaking there. Go ahead, please, Mr. Karmazin.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will now turn the presentation over to Audrey, Rhonda, and Danielle. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
A little more volume, please.
Okay.
Up a little more, please.
Are you good? There we go.
There we are. Good.
Excellent. Excellent. Sorry about that. Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and our community listening virtually. Today, joining me virtually is Daniela Severino, and over the phone, we have Audrey, our market programmer. We are happy to provide you with a year-end update on the farmers market. And first, I would like to pass it over to Daniela to give you an update on how the market operated through a pandemic.
Thank you, Rhonda. I hope everyone can hear me okay. This year, the farmers market had initially planned, it had a projected start for Thursday, May 14th, but with the current pandemic we're experiencing, it had a delayed start and began on Thursday, July 2nd. The direction to delay the start time allowed myself, along with the Farmers Market Committee, to work closely with York Region Public Health and our COVID control group to determine which specific protocols required to allow the market to run safely. To operate safely and ensure the safety of attendees, vendors, staff, and volunteers, the following precautions were followed by all. The market was one direction, allowing the flow of the market to stay consistent, and passive screening questions, as well as recommendations while visiting the market, were visible at the entrance to inform attendees of our procedures. Sanitization stations, as well as COVID-19 signage, were at the entrance, exit, and inside of the market, which included social distancing reminders and precautions. Face masks or coverings were worn, and 6 feet distance was displayed when there was communication with any attendee, vendor, staff, or volunteer. Vendor booths were all distanced from each other, and staff and volunteers and vendors had been informed of COVID-19 training precautions prior to the start of the market to ensure that all attendees had an enjoyable, safe experience at the East Gwillimbury Farmers Market. Now I'd like to pass it off to Rhonda for the next slide.
Thank you, Daniela. The farmers market opened this season in its home of the Civic Center precinct lands north of the Civic Center. The new location provided a safe, accessible space for our visitors and vendors because of the green open space and separate parking lot for those driving to the market, unlike our previous location where it was all one. This space allows for the market to provide more vendor space, and there aren't any restrictions on products from competing retail. The space is incredibly flexible, giving the market opportunity for more community engagement programs and events such as the Kids Seedling Program, children's community gardens, music events, and a Christmas holiday market. Now I'd like to pass it over to Audrey to finish us off on the next slide.
Thank you, Rhonda. One of the benefits of having a defined entrance this year was that our traffic count was more accurate. We had 6,849 visitors over the 15-week season. This was an average of 457 people per week, peaking on July 30th with 625 people. In addition, we had a total of 69 vendor applications submitted and about 30 vendors attending per week. This gave us a vendor fee revenue just under $8,000. 30% of our vendors were East Gwillimbury businesses, an increase over the 17% we had last year. We as a working group hope to continue to increase this percentage next year. In fact, we are all looking forward to the 2021 market season and all the possibilities that it may bring. At this time, I would like to open the floor to any questions.
Thank you very much, Audrey. Before we have any questions, I would like to personally thank Audrey. You did an amazing job as the head this year, and the number of volunteers that we had, they were so pleasant and so easy to work with the public coming in. I watched a couple of times where they got a little pushback from the public with masks and other things, and they certainly handled themselves very, very professionally. I know, Danielle, you were involved in training the volunteers on how to work with the public, and I think it was a terrific year this year. Almost 7,000 people is quite an accomplishment, particularly when we started late. So thank you, and those that aren't on the call today, if you could please share our thanks to them for the work that they did. Thank you. Members of council, questions, comments? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to staff. I want to just, again, on top of what you just said, Madam Mayor, congratulate all of staff for a tremendous job done this year. A challenging year for the farmers market, but I thought it worked exceedingly well. The circle, I thought it created for a great flow, made sure everyone got a chance to get a visit from the patrons, so that was good. I know I paid my visits, emptied my wallet a few times in the market. I've got the extra weight gain to show for it. I missed that popcorn. Question I had is, do you do sort of a end of year post-mortem with the vendors, go over what worked well, what do you need to improve next year? What sort of process do you do to make sure that each subsequent year is better than the previous? I was just curious about what the process is there.
Yes, thank you for that question. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Crone. We absolutely do. We meet with the vendors, and typically each year we do have an end of the year vendor event to thank them for their participation. So that's going to look a little different this year given COVID. However, yes, we definitely like to receive the feedback from our vendors. One thing we also do is send out contact information to those that have participated as a visitor. We would send out surveys. We post surveys on our website, and oftentimes at the market, we'll ask for that feedback from the customers. So that's a little different this year, but we're working out what that would look like, most likely a virtual survey through our website. But certainly I'm always looking for feedback on how we can better the market.
Great. And if I may just ask one more question.
Certainly.
I know that our staff is very involved in organizing the market, and your presence this year, you were great ambassadors for the town, meeting with people, so I really appreciate that. I was just curious, I know where the town is very involved with the handling and production of everything in the market. I was wondering, do our neighboring municipalities, do they follow the same setup that we have, or do they farm out, no pun intended, do they farm out the control of and operation of the market to outside sources? Like, is it the Chamber of Commerce and another town might look after theirs, or is it all done in-house? I'm just curious to understand how others, if you know.
Absolutely, yes. Again, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Crone, that is something we're always researching on because we wanted to see how we can work collectively with our market. And right now, the way we do it is through a committee of council. And we have had improvements where now the market programmer does report into CPRC, which allows us to have more involvement. It is a big divide amongst the other municipalities. A lot of the times it's the BIAs, and sometimes they are run specifically directly through the town. This is our committee, I find, is the first one that's done it where it's a committee of council. So I either see them as BIAs or a separate entity like you mentioned, or it's directly handled by CPRC. I think one of the benefits we have the way we're doing it this way is that we have representatives from our community on the council, committee of council, from our local farming and businesses in EG. So it really helps bring that expertise to the tables while we're organizing the market.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Crone, would you move the recommendation? Thank you. And Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We are at item M, Legal and Counsel Support Services. And I'm wondering if Mr. Horner is there with us.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I'll just one item on today, and it's relating to a proposed appointment of the provincial ombudsman as a closed meeting investigator and ombudsman for the town. Just by way of background, every municipality in Ontario was required to have a closed meeting investigator and an ombudsman. Currently, these services are being provided to the town by two different entities. The local authority services is acting as our closed meeting investigator, and ADR Chambers Inc. is providing ombudsman services. It's important to note that both of these service providers, they provide the service for a fee, so it's an hourly fee, and the fee is dependent on how extensive an investigation is in terms of a closed meeting investigation, or the kind of work that might go into an ombudsman's investigation of a complaint. Just to kind of briefly speak to our own experience, ADR Chambers did an investigation for the town in I think it was 2016, 2017, and the cost to the town to have that service was in excess of $20,000. So at this point in time, the proposal is to take both of these services and move them to the Office of the Provincial Ombudsman, and the Provincial Ombudsman provides a service for no charge. We can see that other municipalities in York Region are doing the same thing. So if council elects to move to the Provincial Ombudsman, we'll be in very good company, and there'll be no fee for the service. So very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any questions. Resolution, be it resolved that Legal and Counsel Support Services Report LCSS 2018 dated November 3rd, 2020 and entitled Ombudsman Services be received, and that as of January 1st, 2021, the Ontario Ombudsman provide ombudsman service and closed meeting investigator services for East Gwillimbury, and that notification of this decision be provided to ADR Chambers Inc. Local Authority Limited, LAS, and the Ontario Ombudsman. Any questions? I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. Mr. Horner, is there anything else under legal at this point?
Not today, Madam Mayor, but I'm very happy to take any questions, Councilman.
Thank you. Are there questions of Mr. Horner on any items at this point? Seeing none, I will move to administration, and at this time there are no reports. Item O is the adoption of minutes. This is pages 90 to 102 to adopt the council minutes from the meeting held on October 20th, 2020. Be it resolved that council adopt council minutes from the meeting held on October 20th, 2020. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persichini, Councillor Crone, all those in favor? That's carried. We have item P, correspondence for consideration. And we have one item from Mr. Leck. And this is regarding a petition to address issues pertaining to the production of cannabis for medical purposes. And do we have a staff member that is going to address this?
I can speak to it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
This is a really interesting petition that comes out federally, and it's kind of neat because the points that are being made are really similar to the points that council made in its own resolution. So for instance, the call is on the Minister of Health to identify loopholes and introduce increased oversight and provide law enforcement with the tools that they need to swiftly resolve and prosecute illegal cannabis production. So what we were thinking that we would do at a staff level is to make the effort to highlight the petition, and we can do that on the web, and we can do that on the town page, and just make sure that residents know that it's available and that they have an opportunity to kind of continue to express their concerns and to lobby for change.
Thank you. Any questions from members of council? I'm not seeing any. I'm wondering, Councillor Crone and Councillor Morton, if you would move the correspondence, please. Good with that?
Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? That's carried. I'm sorry, there are comments. Mr. Clerk, I didn't see your hand up. I apologize. Go ahead.
Not a problem. You're quick. You're very quick today. Just moving to the mover and seconder with regards to that resolution. It was just initially to be received. I hear the intent is to support the petition and publicize it on town medium. So if that's okay with council members, then we'll add that to the resolution. Thank you.
I'm seeing nods. I also am seeing a question. Go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a council, we've already sort of publicly said that there was an issue, and we were asking for some changes to be made at the regulatory level. I support the petition, but it's just a question of whether it's appropriate for us to be, I guess, engaging in this further when it's a private citizen and it's not necessarily something that the municipality would do. Our MP is very much aware of the issue, and he's been working with us on this, and we've got our own resolution that we've put out there. Happy to receive it, happy to share it on my own personal channels to let people know about it, but I'm not sure as an organization that we should be putting corporate resources against this. But if staff are comfortable with it, then I'm fine. I just would want to be a little bit more cognizant of how we're using our town resources when it's a private citizen's initiative. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, comments?
Through Madam Mayor, certainly we can scale that back to just be received. The links are within the correspondence published on the agenda, so ultimately they are published on the town's website, so to speak. And I understand the Councillor Roy DeClemente's position, and each council member has the, if they wish to share it on their personal pages, then they can so if they wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crone, question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. A similar viewpoint of Councillor Roy de Clemente's. I don't think anyone would challenge my dedication to the cause for this. I'll be putting this on my Facebook page. I just wonder the appropriateness of us as a council getting, and this is from a member of the opposition, the petition. So I want to be very careful we don't get too political, get thrown into the middle of a political skunk match in Parliament Hill. Trying to choose my words carefully. So yeah, I support the petition wholeheartedly. I'm very cognizant that we don't become I would hate for us to, as a town, to become a pawn in a political battle where we're trying to work with all parties and all levels of government. So that's my only concern. Happy to receive it and happy to put it on my own Facebook page and social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? We're all chuckling there just a little bit. Go ahead. Okay, we are at item Q of resolutions. I do not have any today. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item R is a closed meeting. And we are to proceed into a closed meeting of Municipal Council about a personal matter about an identifiable or identifiable individuals, Municipal Act Section 2392B, and Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations, Municipal Act Section 2392D, and that is a market review update. And my time is 11:43. Be it resolved that council proceed into a closed meeting of Municipal Council at 11:43 p.m. to deal with the following matters: personal matter about identifiable or identifiable individuals, Municipal Act Section 2392B, and Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations, Municipal Act Section 2392D, market review. And that's what I have. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. for our closed meeting. Be it
Madam
resolved.
Mayor,
Yes,
Madam
go
Mayor,
ahead.
just give staff a chance to switch over to live stream and confirm that for you, please.
Thank you. Okay, we're live now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 on our agenda is to rise and report from closed meeting of Municipal Council. Be it resolved that Council rise and report from closed meeting Municipal Council at 1:10 p.m. and that Council. Now we've got endorse all directions provided to staff, and I think we have received. So perhaps we should change that to receive as well. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Persichini, Councillor Roy DiClemente. All those in favor? That's carried. We have 4 bylaws at this time. Would you like to deal with them collectively, or is there anyone that wants to deal with them individually? Councillor Persichini.
I'll move them all unless somebody else.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, I need bylaw 090 pulled out for a separate vote because I have a declared interest in the matter.
Thank you. So we'll start with 090. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Persichini, all those in favor? That's carried. And a note that Councillor Roy DiClemente had an interest. And then I have the 3 remaining 91, 92, and 95. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Crone, all those in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any other business? CPRC.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
A brief update related to the Santa's Coming to Town tour. Thank you to Danielle Vernell from Communications for assistance with marketing this initiative. And I'll just request that Rhonda Pogue provide a brief update with some of the details.
Santa really is going to be here this year.
Yes, thank you, Erin, through Madam Mayor, to everyone on council and staff. I am happy to announce that I did just get off the phone with the North Pole, and Santa Claus is coming to town this year. Although we are unable to host a traditional parade due to the provincial legislation related to COVID, Santa Claus would still like to spread the holiday joy this year, and he will be doing so in the form of a tour. On December 5th, Santa will begin his tour in Mount Albert, followed by Holland Landing. He will continue his tour on December 12th in Queensville, then into Sharon. Santa will be escorted through the communities with our YRP, Emergency Services, the Mount Albert Lions, and our CPRC team. If Santa is unable to make it to your street, residents will have the opportunity to sign up for a time slot on December 13th for a drive-by wave at the Mount Albert Lions Park. Marketing through our communications team will begin Thursday this week, and thank you again to Danielle for putting this together. And our community map showing the tour route will be made available on the website before November 30th. Thank you.
Gives me goosebumps. Thank you. That's just amazing. Wonderful. Could I have a motion to receive the report for CPRC, please? Councillor Persichini, Councillor Roy DiClemente, all those in favor? That's carried with thanks, staff. That's amazing, and I'm sure that our community are going to embrace it 100%. I'm not seeing any other business at this time. Confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crothers. All those in favor? And that's carried. And an adjournment at 1:15, moved by Councillor Morton, seconded by Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you, staff. Great meeting.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Be
Bye.
safe.
Thank